Okay, so this is task 4, dimensions and axes. I'm going to talk briefly about dimensions and also the axes and a little bit about planes, but there's a reading that follows this in the module. So first off, these axes are right here. This is our y and our x and our z. You probably have seen, go to our top view, this before. If you've done any graphing, if you've taken algebra. So our y-axis and our and our x-axis. So green y and then x. If we were to denote this as a plane, we're talking about our xy plane. Because our x and our y, a plane is essentially a surface that goes on into infinity. Whereas the axes are lines that go on to infinity, in essence. There's a little bit more that could be said about that, and my definition is not perfect. I'm just trying to simplify it to get across the point. So this square actually will come up later on. It is the square that I used in, I believe, task number 6, creating squares. So it'll look familiar again, just the way I'm recording these. So I click on my dimension tool, which you saw there. I choose a point. That tool is then alive and active, but it wants to know what we're measuring, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're measuring the total length of that side there, and then we need to show where to put it. Then we can do that again, and we can say that for certain this is a 10-foot by 10-foot box. You'll be required to do that for new dimensions or to demonstrate that you created something correctly later on. After this module, so please be aware of that. If I ask you to build something, I really am not, to demonstrate a skill, I'm not overly concerned about you dimensioning it. I would like them in parts that are very specific, meaning that you're showing that you created something of the right size. So, again, there. This is a little bit trickier, and I'll probably screw it up, but if we go across here, okay, hit enter, and it's screwed up again. So I'm just going to throw that right there, see if we can get this to work, because what we're trying to do is demonstrate that from here to here. There we go. Alright, so I ended up with a couple extra dimensions, but we can get rid of those. Because technically, if this is the same here, and we know that these corners are all 90 degrees, it would be what we would call over-dimensioned, like what I just had. So I got rid of those extra dimensions, and I measured from this corner to this corner. Technically, again, this might be a little bit extra information, but you could use this to find and verify that if you were to build this, that it is square. That's just an aside. So reality is that is how we dimension. Moving forward, please make sure you are dimensioning things that I ask you to build that are beyond basic shapes. So if I ask you to create a cube that is then going to be used to change the colors, you don't have to of each face. You don't have to dimension each dimension of that cube. And also, don't over-dimension it. So if you give me a length, width, and a height, I can build a cube. If it's in a regular shape, then that's a different story. Okay. So, that is task 4, dimensions and axes. So continue on, read the next slide in the module, and keep going.